Thank you, Mr. President. Climate disruption is a seminal challenge of our generation. We see the impacts occurring all around the world. We see it in the disappearing Arctic ice. We see it in the melting permafrost. We see it in the change of carbon dioxide and methane being emitted from peat bogs, disappearing glaciers, dying coral reefs, and certainly more powerful storms and raging fires. So it's a responsibility of us in this generation, in this time, to take action. And indeed, communities across the globe are taking action. They're increasing the energy efficiency of buildings and vehicles and appliances, and they are replacing carbon-polluting fossil fuel energy with renewable energy. This is such an important issue. How much do you know about the changes underway? Well, let's find out. Welcome to Episode 7 of the Senate Climate Disruption Quiz. Our first question is, since the year 2000, the rate of global carbon dioxide pollution has decreased dramatically, decreased slightly, stayed the same, or increased substantially. I'll lock in your answers. The answer is D, increased substantially. Now, many folks think that because of the actions being taken at the local level and by the community of nations and the Paris Agreement, that in fact, global CO2 pollution has decreased dramatically. But it has not. The rate at which the pollution is occurring is increasing. So it isn't just the total level. For example, in 1990, we had 354 parts per million, and 10 years later, in 2000, we were up to 369.64 parts per million, and in 2017, we were up to 408.8 parts per million. So the levels are climbing, but the speed is increasing as well. In that period around 1990, we were increasing about 1.5 parts per million per year. By 2000, it was about 2 parts per million per year, and now we're at 2.5 parts per million per year. So this increase is substantial. We have to, as a community of nations, not only proceed to decrease total carbon pollution, but first we have to get the rate of increase under control. This brings us to a second question. In September of this year, how many miles did a Proterra bus drive on a single charge? Did this bus set a record by going 270 miles, the distance between LA and Las Vegas? Or did it set a record by going 600 miles from New York City equivalent to Columbia, South Carolina? Did it travel over 1,000 miles, 1,100 miles, the equivalent distance from Arizona to Arkansas? Or did it manage to go 2,092 miles, the shortest distance from the East Coast to the West Coast in America? So lock in your answers. And the answer, the correct answer, is C. It went 1,100 miles. An electric bus traveled 1,100 miles. And this bus was a new version of the Catalyst E2. It's called the Catalyst E2 Max. It is produced by Proterra. It has a battery that's 50% larger than the previous version that is being sold commercially. That's the Catalyst E2. Now that Proterra that's currently being sold has a functional range for the transit agencies that are buying it of over 350 miles, or about 350 miles. That's pretty impressive. But by having a battery that's 50% lighter and moving quite slowly, driving it slowly, they managed to go 1,100 miles. It's really an indication of the rapid transformation of this particular type of electric vehicle. Question 3. Warmer weather is contributing to what problem in major American cities? Is the problem caused by warmer weather transit delays? Is it an exploding rat population? Is it warmer weather contributing to larger potholes or to longer tourist seasons? Well, the dramatic answer here is the warmer weather is contributing to exploding rat populations. Rat breeding usually slows in winter, but if you have a mild winter, that doesn't happen. Since 2013, Orkin, the pest control company, has reported significant growth in its services. 61% growth in Chicago, 67% in Boston, 174% in San Francisco, 29% in New York City, and 57% in Washington, D.C., right here where the capital is located. This is a major economic and health problem. Rats caused $19 billion in economic damage in 2000 from, among other things, eating away at buildings and infrastructure. And of course, they are carriers of rodent-borne diseases like E. coli and Salmonella. Plus, we just simply don't like having them in our cities. So, let's turn to the next question, question number 4. As of today, how many nations in the world are rejecting the Paris Agreement that addresses climate disruption? Is the answer 25 out of the roughly 200 nations in the world, or 12, or 3 nations, or 1 nation? Lock in your answers. The answer is not 25, nor 12. It's not 3. It's now just 1 nation that is rejecting the Paris Agreement. Now, until recently, there were 3 nations. You had 2 nations that had not signed up, and 1 nation which had said it's going to withdraw. The 2 that had not signed up were Nicaragua and Syria, and the one that said it's going to withdraw is the United States of America. Mr. President Trump made that announcement. But a short time ago, Nicaragua announced that it was going to ratify the treaty. And today, Syria announced that it's going to ratify the treaty. That leaves the United States standing alone as the only nation that is saying it's going to reject the Paris Agreement. Of course, this has a big impact on American leadership in the world, since we worked very hard to bring nations together to craft this agreement. And the nations were so impressed that all of them in the world are now participating, except us, except the United States. So let's go to question number 5. Better management of our lands and forests could help reach what % of the goals laid out in the Paris Agreement? Better management of lands and forests, could it contribute to reaching 5% or 1/20th of the goal, or 12% or roughly 1/8, or 25%, roughly 1/4 of the goal, or 37%, more than 1/3 of the goal laid out in Paris? Lock in your answers. The correct answer to this is D, 37%, or more than 1/3. Surprisingly high number. An international study released last month says that the natural climate solutions regarding the management of our lands and our forests could help us reach more than 1/3 of the goals laid out in the Paris Agreement. The paper looked at 20 conservation and improved land management actions that help increase carbon storage or avoid greenhouse gas emissions in a cost-effective manner. The most single important factor among this is reforestation. Now, years ago, I heard an individual say, wouldn't it be great if we could just invent something that could pull carbon dioxide out of the air? Well, we actually have that already. It's called a tree. And so growing trees is a very effective strategy in addressing carbon pollution. And then, of course, there's issues related to how we manage our forests, making them more resilient to forest fires, less likely to burn and emit carbon, and certainly how we farm and how we take care of other types of lands, including peat restoration and coastal restoration. So that's our 5 questions for this edition, episode 7 of the Senate Climate Disruption Quiz. Questions ripped from the headlines in regard to the biggest test facing humankind on this planet. It's up to us in this generation to act. We are the first generation to experience this enormous range of impacts from carbon pollution and a warming planet, and we're the only generation that's able to head off disaster ahead by acting quickly now. We're racing the clock. There is no time to spare. So stay engaged and do all you can to help take this on. And meanwhile, as we learn more about technology and about the planet, I'll, in the near future, bring you Climate Disruption Quiz, Episode 8. Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. President, I don't think I need to note the absence of quorum. My colleague's ready to speak.